Welcome to Chant It Down Radio. I'm your host, Loomis. ChantItDownRadio.com is the website. Today's episode is 158, Synchrodelics, Part 6 of the Journey Home series, a series in which we look at solutions to the problems that we face. Right now, we are going to take a look at synchronicity in our lives and how to expand it and listen to a living universe, take psychedelics, and get into the earth-based Gaia mind.
Chant It Down Radio's coming to you live from the Hawaiian Islands, coming from the perspective of complete freedom, coming from wisdom outside the system and then some. This is the mouthpiece of the natural earth forgotten. At this point in time, humanity's been kept from the truth, so Chant It Down Radio offers the coordinates to a path out.
You're searching for something whole, cause what you see real life. You're watching this world unfold, the truth beneath the lies. Rekindling what's been stole, the need to free one's mind. Uncover the truth exposed, so people see the light. Let's chant it down, so we can know. It's simple, we just break it down a little bit so we can process all. Make the switch to elevate yourself to conscious mode, and it's beneficial we can get this concept rolling. Get the future generations wanna stop the whole thing, with the message demonstrated we can start a post. Taking in, assimilating, getting lots of numbers, waking up the population, try to stop hypnosis.
Welcome to Chant It Down Radio, where we deprogram from the deep program and be a free nomad with a deep romance and a free homeland where the people advance. Let me see a show of hands to defeat the whole plan and make the evil one scram. You found yourself here, so maybe you're meant to be here and have a seat. This is episode 158. This is part 6 of the Journey Home series, and I titled this one Synchrodelics. Welcome to Chant It Down Radio. And if you've never listened to the show before, ChantItDownRadio.com is a website, good place to start and listen to many shows. This show is timeless, all of them almost, so when you go to the archives, don't be afraid, because everything I'm talking about now or even years ago are related to now. So welcome. Today I'm going to talk about the importance of synchronicity in your life and how to activate more. And this is part of the Journey Home series. This is one of my more I would say, solution-based series of shows that helps us, because I do talk about a lot of gloom and doom on this show, and I don't want to, but that's what's happening in the world, so I do like to give you as much solution as I can. And also we're going to talk about the inner trip. We're going to talk about psychedelics, and at the end of the show I have some vaccine news, so we're going to kind of wrap it up into one package. Although it does sound a little different at first, it'll all come together nicely. With all this madness we've been through in the last year, we all need to feel that the universe is alive again. And for some people, last year, they got a break from work and maybe had some time to reflect and learn a lot. And great, hats off to you if that's what you did. Others, like myself, had a full house and got less time than even usual. And now more than ever, no matter what, people need to take the journey. I think it's crucial to take some type of journey to remember who you are and tap into the living universe. I mean, they ban travel most places, or it's a 2-week quarantine, so that lessens the international trips unless you're loaded. Otherwise, who wants to quarantine for 2 weeks anyway? Even if you did have the money, it would suck to just be stuck in a hotel. So more than likely you're not going to be going out of your country right now. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that I like to do in this world. I like to travel internationally, and they took that away, so I'm pretty pissed off about that. And I really do like to go on journeys and see the planet that we are born to see, that we have the right to see, but, you know. So then it's too cold to appreciate the American road trip right now for a lot of you in the States. And so maybe it's time to do the inner trip. A mushroom trip might suit you or something like that. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But I think it's more important to really experience synchronicity. And what we want to do is pay attention to synchronicities in our life. Give attention, and these things start to come to life and unfold the world in front of your eyes. So what is synchronicity? You probably all know, but maybe as much as I can define it, it could be the fundamental connection of all living things within the universe. I think about it like that. But Carl Jung first defined synchronicity in the 1920s as the simultaneous occurrence of two meaningful but not causally connected events. So that is another way to look at it. Synchronicity comes from the unconscious mind. It comes from the higher self. It comes from collective consciousness. And it projects that out into the world, and you get things back that are personally related to your experience. It's the universe trying to tell us things. So it's also not just you, it's beyond that too. And although it's all related to your higher self, it's confirmation bias for many people. And it often implies that there's a deeper intelligent aspect of the universe at work communicating with you. Synchronicity is also thought to be a manifestation of psychic abilities where, for example, we intuit that a certain person will call us or a certain event will come our way, and it does. Everything is connected to everything, and it's important to realize that when looking at all this. And so, yes, it isn't one thing, synchronicity, and we'll get into that more. But it ties us to other dimensions where dreams come true. It is that track underneath all of our existences that sort of guides us along if we look. And then lame people define synchronicity as useless coincidences, and it's just all a coincidence. And those are the lame people, But we can just shut them out of this. It shows whole brain people, real people, that there is meaning in the universe, and that's important. And can you actually define synchronicity? I mean, those are just ways to define it, but it's more than that too. But when you experience synchronicity, you'll have experiences that seem far too significant to be boring, day-to-day, regular old life encounters. These are experiences that stick with you, and things that you can feel are things that were communicated by an outside force. Synchronicity can manifest itself in endless number of forms. So like I say, it's hard to define it in one thing. It can come through names, numbers, words, symbols, events, and journeys, and a whole lot of things. Here's a few examples of synchronicity that you have maybe experienced, or that you know of, or maybe never have, or it depends on where you're at. But seeing repeated numbers such as 1111, or master numbers like 3322, or quite a few different numbers. I'll get into that. And thinking about something, then having it happen, or being in the right place at the right time, or maybe you're dreaming about people, animals, places, then seeing them repeatedly in real life, or you're seeing repeated symbols. A lot of people talk about seeing the infinity sign, the triangle, the tree of life, etc. Or maybe just meeting the right person at the right time, or seeing somebody's name everywhere, and get just traces of things that are so significant that it couldn't be just a regular old boring day-to-day encounter. So those are just some examples, and there's more, of course. Synchronicity is a string of events that seem to be highly symbolic and meaningful in nature. You can use some of these examples too, like overhearing a couple of strangers talk about something that is of great significance to your own life. I have that happen a lot. Or watching episodes of your favorite TV shows that all somehow have the same underlying storyline focus. And I can relate with that too. Or getting the exact message you need the most at the exact right time. Say you're going through big life change and you get these messages just at that right time. Or meeting the exact right person at the exact right time. Or seeing the same symbols or images repeated everywhere. Whatever, on a billboard, or on a commercial, or on a tattoo, or all kinds of things. glancing at the clock the exact same time of the day for many days on end, and seeing all these numbers such as 1111 and many of the others. Reoccurring signs that seem to lead you somewhere special, such as a great job or a relationship or a new place to live. Hearing the same song repeated many times in unusual circumstances, and strange alignments of birth dates between friends and partners. So those are some more examples of unique synchronicity. Now, in the last year, even though lockdown, I started noticing synchronicity in movies. I mean, everybody kind of had less to do, watching more movies and stuff. So I noticed synchronicity in movies that I was watching last year. For example, I'd see the same actors in completely random movies I was watching. So it's really all around us, even in confined times. You just have to pay attention and realize that it's not just coincidence. And I mean, I can give you a great example, and I've said this before on the show, but when I recorded my solo album, and many of you may know I'm an ex-hip-hop artist, and so I recorded my solo album while my ex and my kids were on vacation. I had time to really, convert a room into a recording studio and just go for it. And so I did. And every time I got done recording, it was 11 after the hour, whatever it was, whether it was 11:11, 8:11, and from then on, I've never been the same. So you can say that album must have been pretty important, at least to me, because it was the defining thing that came out of it. In fact, some of my cover art or insert art of the CD, if you bought the CD, you'll see 11:11 in there, and that just seems symbolic for me to put it in the album insert because it was so important to the recording process. So that is what I did, and that started a lot of synchronicity with numbers in my life. And that was the same year, I think it was 2008, that I recorded my album, my solo album, and I met an insider of the system that showed me uncovered a lot of the secrets about chemtrails and stuff. I met two insiders by synchronicity, by the way. So, this kind of stuff. And to this day, I still have seen so many 11s. In fact, I just saw one an hour before this recording. I see them so much that I sometimes, when I'm busy, I feel bad because I'm getting used to them. And I did a whole episode on this, actually, episode 11. And so that was symbolic of, I thought, so I did an episode on that in my early radio days in 2013. So anyway, I've done a lot on this already, but I think it's important to just kind of find it all in one place. I think that another bad thing about everyone stuck in their screens all the time is they don't experience synchronicities as much because they're not in the present moment. Everybody stuck in their phones. And so it's important. I mean, you can still see synchronicity even doing that, but it's important to, I think, just be more living in the present moment and less of this, in the screens, and kind of just try to slow your life down as much as you can. Well, it may have already been slowed down because of COVID anyway, but yeah. So I think that there are different types of synchronicity. You can't all put it in one basket. I've labeled a few, and I think there are various types that you want to kind of distinguish between. Message synchronicity is the most common that I experience. It's giving you a nod or a wink from God or the Creator, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, that you're on the right path. And that's always a nice thing to have in your life, is message synchronicity. There's several types of message synchronicity too. There's pre-warning synchronicity, signs before something bad or disrupting might happen or life-changing. And if you are able to collect the signs, you might be more ready. And then there's what I call post-cataclysm synchronicity. something big happens in your life to stir up the normal, and then you begin to experience new ripples in the matrix. So when I recorded that album, that made new ripples in life, and from then on, synchronicity really started to appear to me. Now, what I think that you would think, well, then that album would have been, very successful. Actually, it was not successful. Very underground, and actually, my music career really kind of ended after that as a solo artist. And I did most of my hip hop in the '90s anyway. But that was me wrapping up 10 years of a solo kind of career. And just recorded it. So it was important to me, just really me. But people like the album, some of you. So if you do like to buy it, you certainly can. I only have it on CD right now, but maybe I'll put it on digital again. I don't know no one listens to CDs. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So post-cataclysm synchronicity, and then there's manifestation synchronicity, where your subconscious influences reality and you externally manifest the thoughts you were having. In other words, it's the law of attraction, where you put something out there and then you get it. Sometimes you see something you want, but it's too much money, but you put it out to the universe and later it comes in your life. And that's manifestation synchronicity. So there are different types of synchronicity that you can categorize. And you may want to, try to identify which ones are which, but the most important is bad synchronicity or artificial synchronicity. There is actually such things as bad synchronicity. They are staged to make you think it's a sign from the universe, but it's often a ploy by dark forces such as spirits, maybe even extraterrestrials, maybe, I don't know. But they play to our wishful thinking, these artificial synchronicities. And one person to listen to about all this is Tom Montauk. Tom is one of my favorite UFO researchers, and really, he goes beyond, I think, most people. He's pretty solid at every subject, not just UFOs. I mean, you can talk about it all. And I really enjoy his stuff. But what he says is, artificial synchronicity is engineered by hyperdimensional negative beings in an attempt to suppress, sabotage, drain, distract, or mislead targets on the verge of awakening. This can happen in a variety of ways. Artificial ones seem contrived, very forceful and rushed, and just a bit too weird. They try to press you into making a particular decision or sparkle up something that you know deep down is false, whereas real synchronicities merely reflect confirmation of decisions you have already made or else forecast an upcoming leap in progress. So it may be a little bit hard to define all this, but I think it's good to have that in your tool set too, that there is negative synchronicity. I have a friend who is married, and this is a story that I think works for this, sort of, not completely. I have a friend who's married, and he had a crush on this girl, but he didn't act on it because he's married, right? But he had a crush on this girl. They sort of had this connection thing going on, and they could both feel each other, and they were definitely in tune to something. And they didn't work in the same place, but their companies had partnerships, so they would sometimes see each other every now and then, and it was kind of a special little thing. But he kept seeing her everywhere, randomly, after this, not at work, just randomly places, and felt that there was meaning to it. They would intersect at so many random places and be like, oh, what are you doing here, And so it didn't stop with that. He started seeing her last name everywhere. I guess it happened to be the same company name as his car stereo, so he would see that every time he was driving, and it continued to haunt him. And he told me that he kept thinking back to all of the times they met randomly, and it's like time stopped for him when he saw her, and, well, he didn't know if that was the same in her because they never talked about it. So this began to haunt him. He'd see her name everywhere and all kinds of things. So finally, they were at work gathering. It was like a gathering of the both companies that had kind of a work party, I guess is what it was. And they got drunk and they hooked up in like another room somewhere. So it was a bad move on my friend because he didn't try to understand their connection. They just rushed, they hooked up, they skipped past the important info and acted on the crush both evidently had on each other. Well, that didn't work out so good for him because somehow his wife found out. And see, you can't hide these kind of things. The truth always comes out. That's what also gives me hope in the bigger picture of the evil ones and the bad things they're doing. The truth will eventually come out as well. But anyway, it was a disaster, near divorce. So the lesson is, if it's going to hurt someone, don't do it, right? So he followed the synchronicity. He followed it, all right. But, she had a boyfriend too, so they never got to talk about their connection. Instead, only hooked up physically, and so they, that's that. So he's lucky his wife kept him, my friend. But he'll never be able to see her again and talk because he's tainted it. And they have that rough patch in their marriage now, so he won't be able to even bring it up, So that was bad. But if they would have just had coffee together and maybe he could have mentioned his synchronicity with her and not went into the affair, and maybe she would have been like, oh yeah, I know this too. So that's an example of taking the synchronicity and running with it. Maybe the signs were real, but his relationship with his wife was just fine. There was no reason to cheat. So no need to destroy that just to investigate the signs. And, either it was a test from the universe and he failed, or it was real synchronicity, but he ran with it wrong. And I don't know. I think, and then also sometimes we can read too much into synchronicity and make something out of relatively nothing. And it's more like wishful thinking, So that's an example of many different types of synchronicities. Now, due to mass censorship, if you want to listen to this entire podcast, go to any podcast player out there and visit the website chantitdownradio.com, which has many episodes and archives to sift through.